Welcome back, Nomad family. It's your boy, Anthony Thomas from Francis Parker School here in San Diego, California. And today we will conclude our webinar series on athlete activism with a coach's perspective. And I have to tell you, I could not wait for this webinar today because we have two of the best coaches in the land. And when I say coaches, I'm not just talking about X's and O's here, folks. I'm talking about impact players. You can ask them what their impact players are. They'll tell you these two gentlemen are impact players for me when I think about coaches and men who are making a positive impact on the young men that they lead. So I am so excited that we have these two coaches here today to talk about their unique perspective and their passion. First, Mike London Sr. is the current head football coach for the William and Mary Tribe in Williamsburg, Virginia. He is a former defensive back and associate head coach and defensive line coach for the University of Maryland in College Park. Prior to Maryland, London was the head coach of the University of Virginia Cavaliers. And then prior to William and Mary, London was the head coach of the Howard Bison, HU, folks, HU football program. London is a native of the Hampton Roads area of Virginia. Now, look, I got friends in Virginia, but every time I talk to them, they talk about the athletes that come out of that Hampton Roads area. So it must be a rich area there. I got to get out there when I go visit my boy Kevin Adams one day. I got to check this place out. Maybe I can get some guys to come out and have some weather like here in San Diego because I need some help. But London played college and pro football as a defensive back for the University of Richmond Spiders. And this is probably why him and Kevin are so close. There's this team in Texas that Kevin loves to talk about. I think they're called the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's their name. I don't know. They're not very popular around the country. But, but here's one thing that I think is interesting as well is that Coach London was also a police officer and a detective in Richmond, Virginia, with the city's street crimes unit before pursuing his coaching career. So we're gonna learn a lot from Coach London today. So Coach, thank you for being here. And then next we have Coach Charles Adams. And man, oh man, if I would have known about this guy, I would have tried to pull him to California as well. Coach Adams is the head coach of the Minneapolis North High School football program. He was a Minneapolis police officer for some 20 years, including serving as a resource officer at his own alma mater, North High, where he coaches. While at North, he served as a peacemaker, college counselor, social worker, and had broad duties that range from diffusing hallway conflicts among students to distributing free clothes and helping families find food and shelter. Now, I want to share a quick video about this man.
Bowlers with the ball.
It's more than just a great team. It's a dynasty.
Time to the end zone. It is caught. Touchdown.
Which once went 6 years without losing a single regular season game.
All the way in for a Bowlers touchdown.
But the football program at North High School in Minneapolis is also a lot more than that. In one of the toughest parts of the city, beset by drugs and violence, it's the rare source of local pride, and in some cases, the only thing keeping kids on the straight and narrow.
If there's no football in this community, what happens to the kids that are playing for you?
Gang wars, shootings, car thefts, probably drug dealing. And a lot of these kids will probably fall victim to that because they wouldn't have anything to do.
Charles Adams is the man who's given them another way. He's the head coach at North High, the man who made this team and this community into winners, earning the love of players and their families along the way.
Hey, man, I'm so proud of y'all, man.
But Adams has another job too, and last May, it cast the local hero in a very different role, enemy of the people. It happened after the death of George Floyd under the knee of a city police officer. Lines formed in the street as angry protesters looted and burned, and riot police braced for the worst. Among them, Officer Charles Adams.
When you looked into the faces of those people who were throwing things and yelling things, what did you see?
Disappointment, people fed up. People are tired of black people being treated the way they are by police officers.
You understood the anger.
I understood the anger. I do.
All right, I encourage y'all to check out the rest of that incredible story on HBO Real Sports. I saw it and immediately I called Tony Fisher. I forgot that I was 2 hours behind him, so I hope I didn't wake him up, but I called him and said, do you know what type of coach you have in your district? And he was like, calm down, man. I know who we got. Coach Adams is just simply an amazing guy. And so, gentlemen, thank you both for being here. I cannot wait to talk to you both and hear about your unique perspective. So why don't we get ahead and get started? Why don't you guys just first sort of just share your story with us a little bit. Coach London, why don't you go ahead and start?
I appreciate it. First of all, thank you for having me on, and it's good to have an opportunity to speak, to you guys this afternoon. It's 1 o'clock. It's 1:13 here in sunny Williamsburg, Virginia. So, but I appreciate this opportunity. I am a guy that's had an opportunity. I'm the son of an Air Force veteran. Father was in the Air Force and retired over 32 years. Flew the C-110 airplane. So I've lived in Hawaii, Africa, Germany, all over the country, and have had a chance to experience the military life, experience the things that being involved in being a dependent of an active military person, about the struggles, about the accomplishments, about the challenges in being involved with raising up in the different places around the world. But it's also given me a perspective about things, people, and situations. My dad right now is suffering from the effects of Agent Orange, fighting in the jungles of Vietnam. So it's amazing how cyclical life is. William & Mary was my first full-time job back in the mid-90s. That's when you might know these names. Mike Tomlin was a defensive back here, a wide receiver here, He was a player here. Sean McDermott, who's the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, he was a defensive back. So they were athletes, players when I was here. And Dan Quinn, who was the head coach at the Atlanta Falcons not too long ago, he was a defensive line assistant for me. So it's funny how life is cyclical and it brings you back. I'm from Hampton, Virginia, as Anthony was saying. So for me to jump in a car, drive down, just sit and talk with my pops and know that he's going through his struggles, it's been a godsend. My wife's mother lives in Newport News, Virginia. And so she's about 15 minutes away. And I don't know if that's good or bad. She will show up and say, hey, baby, I made some possum soup for you, and I just wanted to drop it by. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. How'd you get in here? Where's your mask at? So, but no, I mean, it's great to be back home where I basically started in my coaching career. And as Anthony said, I am a graduate University of Richmond. I played defensive back there. When I went on, I had an opportunity to sign as a free agent with the Dallas Cowboys when Tom Landry was the head coach. And literally the NFL for me stood for not for long, because I was there for a cup of coffee and it had to move on. But I'd always wanted to be a police officer, Secret Service agent, FBI, because I saw what my dad was doing and some of the things that he was involved with. And so I became a police officer in the city of Richmond. Shortly after the academy, I became a street crimes detective and had a chance to I literally have seen what the worst of human elements do to each other, what families do to each other. Just what I did was I followed people, arrested people that committed heinous crimes and things like that. And it was just, you get an idea and understanding of the human condition. Shortly after that, there was an incident one night that there was a robbery that myself and another partner were we're out in the middle of Hull Street, nowhere around, no other cars. And lo and behold, a call comes up that a robbery had just occurred. And us in plain clothes, sitting behind the van that had committed the robbery was the van. And so we followed the van for a certain amount of time. They knew that, they turned left, we turned left. They went right, we went right. And we finally pulled in a housing area and faced us. And, we identified ourselves as police officers. I went to the driver's side, fought with him to gain control of the vehicle. And he pulled a gun out, pointed it at me, and it went click. Obviously, I let go of the driver wheel, but it is an experience that it forever changed my life in terms of your life flashing before your eyes, your family, friends, just all those things. And that was a perspective that I have. All of us on this call have a perspective, a perception, in our reality as we know it, as we've experienced it. And that was an experience that I'll never forget. That got me out of being a police officer, and I became a college coach. And as Anthony said, I don't want to belabor this, but I've been an assistant coach at University of Richmond and Boston College. I was an assistant at UVA. I was an assistant at William and Mary. I coached with the Houston Texans, and the opportunity for me to have been an assistant coach at William and Mary, UVA, and William and Mary, and then come back as a head coach has not been lost on me. I understand. I feel tremendously blessed and honored to have been an assistant. Hopefully, have done things right to be able to come back and be the head coach of these institutions. Richmond, we won the national championship in 2008. UVA 2011, I was the ACC Coach of the Year, along with Dabo Sweeney and Frank Beamer and Jimbo Fisher. And then, as you mentioned, I became a head coach at Howard University, and a great perspective there. Howard University in 2017 holds the biggest upset in college football history when we beat UNLV. Not Alabama playing Auburn or any little old HBCU. Howard University has the biggest upset in college football history. And I was a part of that, feel tremendously honored and blessed for that. So that's kind of been the coaching tree, the travels. And I would mention one other thing is I'm actively involved in the Be the Match program, which is a bone marrow initiative and drives that look to educate people, collect bone marrow drives for people particularly people of color who are underrepresented in the National Bone Marrow Registry. I was at Boston College. We played in a bowl game. My daughter Tyson got sick, didn't know what was wrong, took her to the children's hospital there, and they said, Coach, your daughter has Fanconi anemia, which is your body's inability to produce white blood cells to fight off infections. What she needs is a bone marrow transplant to save her life. And being a young parent, I'm like, all right, how much one of those costs? Just tell me where we can go get that. And it's not that easy. So we had to join the National Bone Marrow Registry. We tested several people, couldn't find a match. I was leaving Boston College to go to the University of Virginia, where Al Groh was the head coach at that time. And along the way, we stopped at Johns Hopkins Hospital. We asked about their circumstances, our circumstances. And to make a long story short, we kept trying to find a match, couldn't find a match. It's hard to get donors. And then finally, one of the doctors said, as a last ditch effort, Coach London, let's try you. But the odds of the parent is a match for their own child, 10,000 to 1. I heard 1,000,000 to 1. I'll never forget one day they took my blood. They called my wife back, myself and my wife back, said, Mr. London, you're the match. Not just a match, but you're the perfect match. The perfect match. And so the odds of having heard all the things that wouldn't happen, that likely can't happen, that statistically is not going to happen, it happened. And right now, my daughter is getting her master's degree at Lynchburg College. And doctors don't like to say miracle, but that was a miracle. The night in South Richmond, when a gun was pulled and the trigger was pulled and the bullet didn't go off, that's got to be a miracle. So I guess on this call, social justice, being a coach, supporting activism for players, I being the first African-American head coach at 3 predominantly white institutions, you can't tell me what the odds are or what they may be stacked up against me. So I am always a glass half filled person. And it's a privilege and honor to speak to you guys and also have a chance to listen to Coach Adams' story, because the perspectives and perceptions and realities that we all have are based on our own life experiences. Been a police officer, been a head coach, been the only coach sometimes on a staff where I was the only one that looked like me. But the perspective in coming out of this has been something that, being a role model, a mentor, all those things. And last things I want you guys, because Coach Adams is going to speak as well, is when I was growing up, the guys like Tony Dungy, Ron, Tyrone Willingham, they were like my role models and mentors. And you find in life that pretty soon it's going to be your turn to be the person, to be the role model and mentor. I looked up to Coach Dungy. I still do. But I find now, in my capacity as a head coach now, 4 different places, it's my turn to bring other coaches along, so they can stand on my shoulders, because I've stood on the shoulders of many for so long, and feel really blessed and honored. So it's great to have a dialogue with you guys today. And Coach Adams, you got it.
You know what? I don't know how I can follow that. That story, as powerful as it is the reason why I continue to coach, to be mentored and to be affiliated with coaches like you, Coach London. So I truly commend you for you helping set the path for us younger coaches and being able to have the opportunity. It's a joy just to see how much we resemble each other, with the stories, and it's a breath of fresh air to see the success, especially of minority coaches, and being able to be that way. So I'm truly honored to be a part of this and to be affiliated with you. My story is no different. Being with Minneapolis Police, and not only that, a family of police officers. My father is still with the police force. He is actually the inspector of the Northside Precinct where we reside at. But they've been 30 plus years in the police department. So I grew up, in a police officer family. My uncle did 30 years as a police officer. He just recently retired, actually a month after I did, to take on the director of security for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So when I mean family affair, it's a family affair. I have been blessed to be fortunate enough to have great kids in a community that I was born and raised and that I love being a part of. And one of the biggest things about my community is, when you see the story, you see interviews and stuff like that, it makes more, it's more to me because I'm a product of that. And sometimes, we don't say that enough, but I'm a product of North Minneapolis. So my passion lies within, the people and the things going on in North Minneapolis. I do have dreams to be a coach in the next level. Kind of discouraging because I know I got to keep pushing, but I think right now, God has called me to continue to mentor these young men to get them to the next level. So I will continue to stick with that. But I'm a father of 3 wonderful children and a wife that have been super patient with me and have allowed me to share myself with the community and people amongst the world. I think the biggest thing for me is to show how committed I am to the community, but the relationship that I show to these kids with my father is one of my strong points. My father is also one of the assistant coaches on our staff, and that relationship and that healthy bond is what we show to all our kids, and that's what strives me to continue to be a better person for them all. I have been definitely through ups and downs. No secret with the George Floyd situation, which I've been blessed to have opportunities because of things going on, but more or less, it was devastating for me. It was devastating just to even go through what our city went through, and knowing that, I was not going to be in my position, not as coach, but as a school resource officer with the kids that I care about. And really, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm still kind of struggling with that because I just don't know how in the future things can be, or how they will be when kids don't have somebody that they can trust that's in law enforcement in the school with them. But that's where prayer comes about. Just being able to be close to the kids as much as possible. I could go on. This is truly a journey that I'm starting, and I always look up to other coaches for advice. But just really just fortunate enough to be here and being able to be a part of kids' lives. And one thing I just want to add is, we talk about as coaches of what we've done and what we've accomplished, and I had a young man that recently just won the Super Bowl. It was the first kid to ever come out of our program to go to the NFL, and he won a Super Bowl. We always talk about relationships, and I made people understand that those relationships are just important to us. Like, I tell those kids, you don't need me, we need each other. And I think that's, this last year, how things have been in this world. I think I've probably been needing the kids a little bit more than they needed me. And that's kind of special. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you guys for sharing your stories already. I want everybody to know that we will be selling London Adams humble pie after the show. So if y'all want to get some, because you see these two men are being incredibly humble. But let me just give you a little background right now. Coach London is actually preparing for his first football game coming up in a week and a half. He's going to be playing in the Capital Cup against his alma mater, University of Richmond, the South's oldest rivalry game. So, he's taking this time when he should be, and probably will get right back into the film room, getting ready for that. But he's here with us. So how grateful should we be for that? And then Coach Adams, he is down making sure the Minnesota Twins are safe down in their facility down in Florida right now as a director of security, working for the Minnesota Twins. So two busy men who make such an impact, are pillars in their community. So again, gentlemen, thank you. I have so many questions. I just want to get started. I want to take us back to that day when George Floyd was murdered. And Coach London, you had a great impact on Twitter. You got on there and spoke your mind. Can you talk a little bit about that video and your message to America?
Sure. First, it was one of those, obviously, I haven't been a police officer. I know Coach Adams can speak to this. I know what an effective arrest looks like. And I know what happened to George Floyd was murder. And so the frustration of that, and having to deal with it with my players, players of color that were trying to grasp the impact of looking and watching and seeing those type of things go on, or that incident go on, and then subsequent instances after that. Because immediately when you're playing athletics, and I know a lot of you guys are athletic directors involved with sports, that it's the kids talk about, their identity being tied up to whether they can run with a ball, kick a ball, shoot a ball, or whatever it is. So they're tied up in just being athletes. Sometimes they're lost in that identity at our places, at our universities or schools, and that their self-worth is just all about that. But that there's so many other things that they are and that they will be. We're big here for community service things, being active, being an advocate, and it was just a culmination of seeing the anger and the frustration, not only on my players' faces, but just in the communities, and knowing, having been a police officer, knowing that that things are still the same and haven't changed, the attitudes about that. And so I went on Twitter and I just said, wake up. And I got emotional, and I just said, you can't defend the actions that happened, that police officer showed. And then you can't defend, people that were marching in peaceful protesting. They like to associate the peaceful protesting with people that were burning down houses and businesses. Those people in those communities weren't burning down their own houses and businesses. So it was an awakening, but also it was being a representative of young men that felt anger, that felt hurt, that felt, it was really a tough time. And it continues to be. It continues to be, with understanding that if you're going to be an advocate, how we can be advocates for change, the things that we do, who we engage, how we engage, all those things are critically important. So again, the video was one that wasn't looking for, anything out of it to come out of it, but it was just, again, one, I go back to, of a perspective and a perception and a reality, and being able to share those moments and have the conversation with our players.
Thanks, Coach London. Everybody, Coach London's Twitter game is strong. I just read something on there recently that I wanted to share. He writes, stay above the fray of negativism. Steadfastness demands strength in your why you do for others. Before you judge others, get to know them first. Hashtag love the game. Hashtag hate the blame. Coach, you coming strong, man. You coming strong.
I gotta get it. Some of them up to my kids now. I got 7 kids, and they when they started saying about by the time I kept saying keep it lit, I thought they were about talking about like lighting cigarettes or stuff like that. Dad, no. When I was talking about dynamite, they're like, what is that, Dad? That's JJ from Good Times. What do you mean, what is that? They don't know no JJ from Good Times. So I got to catch up with the times right now. But I'm gonna try. Yeah. I'm gonna try to be engaging though at the same time.
I hear you. So Coach Adams, man, you were right at the epicenter. And one of the things I learned about you, which really just speaks to who you are as a man, when those protests began, the first thing on your mind were your football players, your kids. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. And not only just being able to, so it all happened so fast. It was, hey, get down here, bring your riot gear. I'm like, what? Bring your riot gear. So then we got our assignments, and they told us what we were gonna do, and then I put 2 and 2 together that I'm like, hold on, that's right in the middle of everything. So, I had to call my wife and let her know what was going on. And then I had to tell my coaches, like, hey, get everybody on the Zoom right now. And I told these dudes, and I said, hey, man, it's bad out here. Y'all stay at home. I got to get out here. I got to get in the middle of things. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't. So this could be me saying goodbye to y'all dudes, man. And that was emotional, because how can you tell, your players that you may not see them again, or even your family, and it's kind of going to, Coach London's situation. situation of when your life kind of flashes in front of your eyes. And literally, that's what happened. So, oh my God, it was, the censored way was weak as hell. Like, I was so afraid, and I'll admit that. I'll admit that I was so afraid because I didn't think I was going to come back home.
Man, that's real. That's real. Coach Adams, you've also been described as the rock of the community in North Minneapolis. What does that mean to you?
Well, here go those humble pies again, huh? Absolutely not. Anybody that knows me, I do not deserve to be that label. What I will say is I do care about where I came from. My granddaddy, my grandmother, my uncles, aunts, my mother, father, we all grew up North Side. So we care about where we came from. And I don't do what I do in this community to get anything for it. I just do it because I know this community raised me. So it's giving back and being the best I can, and I still, the funny thing is my granddaddy growing up would always say, act like or try to convince me that he knew everybody. And the weirdest thing is when I got older, I realized that he actually does know everybody. So I still am raised to where I don't want to disappoint, my family. And I don't want to disappoint anybody that knew me growing up. So I got to continue to be the best person I can.
Well, you're doing it, sir. You are doing it. And like I said, we are so honored to have you and what you represent. Going back to your alma mater, doing the work that you were doing. Both of you are family men. And it's another thing that we don't get to hear a lot about for Black men, about being family men and being there for their families. And I know Coach London, I'll play that game that you like to play. I Gotta Know. You guys got to check out his segment. I Gotta Know. He does this with his players. It's great. But Coach, I Gotta Know, faith, family, and football. What does that mean to you?
Well, real quick, I mean, when the gun doesn't go off and the doctor says you're the match for your own child, that's faith. And the family part of it is a father of 7, a dad that was in the military, who's going through his issues with Agent Orange right now. That's family. And football is the platform that I can use to influence, inspire, be a mentor and role model some of these young men that that want to perhaps either pursue the goal of becoming a head coach. There's not too many head coaches, as we know, in college football, particularly in the NFL, as you look at what's going on now, that you just don't have to be the best recruiter, that you can have a great mind, that you can have strategies that allow your players, put your players in best positions to win. That whatever the position that you have, if you're the running backs coach, be the head coach of that position. Be the best running back coach that there is. If there's another position or something else that's going on, ask your coach, hey, can I be the assistant camp director? Can I be in charge of the weight room? Can I be the liaison to the academic advisor? And then when you get those roles and responsibilities, be the best at what those responsibilities are. And then just and kind of try to live that life of excellence that when we try to press ourselves to get it, it never happens. But when you do your job to the best of your ability, people will find you because your ability, your skill level, your work ethic, and things like that are things that stand out. So every one of my coaches has a liaison area. Every one of them, I give them, you have a recruiting coordinator, assistant recruiting coordinator. You have a associate head coach, and you have assistant head coach. So it's giving them opportunities to rise to the level of what the responsibility is, and then hold them accountable for it. But at the same time, you know, sometimes, as we know, the athletic directors, when you're hiring people, you want to see if they're checking off the different boxes. But whatever responsibilities that they may have, if they're showing fiscal restraint, if they're showing the ability to communicate with others, if they're showing how to deal with their personal branding, whether it's social media or interviewing or whatever it is like that, if they're showing those capabilities, then they can show also the capabilities when you put them in those leadership roles. And so try to create that to allow for our players, assistant coaches to see that there is a path forward. Although in the world of minority coaches and opportunities in terms of diversity and inclusiveness, it's challenging, as we all know. But nonetheless, you know, our efforts are going to be exemplified by what we do, what we say, and how we try to act and react.
That's outstanding. Thank you, sir. Coach Adams, I know you've lost some players to gun violence, so I know your faith probably was shook by all of that. But faith, family, and football for you, sir, what does that mean?
Kind of, in the same lines, faith being, first of all, being faithful to the people that you're serving, and not being afraid to be honest and transparent, but trusting yourself and trusting that you can lead appropriately. Family, as much as we are away, from our family, just being connected in making your own family and making you like family to others. And then, just a football piece. It's great that Coach London said that, because I have so many coaches, so many guys that want to coach, and they think that the football aspect of it is how good and how smart you are and what scheme and what defense you can run. And it's so much more than that. And it's always good to get a perspective of, get ideas, but you are only as good as everybody that you have on your staff. And that's important. And that's one thing that I thrive on of, I want to make sure that all of us together can service and give these kids what they need, and not just about me. Yeah, I'm the head coach, and my name, when things are good or bad, they are the ones that are out there. But for the most part, I think it's important to help and together as coaches put things together and associate people and be the best at what you do. Because I definitely got, guys that, are all over the place. They want to be this one year and they want to be that. And it's like, hey, be here for the kids and teach them football, and everything else will fall into place.
That's great. So, Coach Adams, I've been dying to ask you this question because I just think it's one of the coolest things. Can you talk about the tradition of your football team walking through the neighborhood to their football field? Like, share what that means to that football program.
And I just realized that I didn't mention about the lost young men that we had. And a part of the tradition, so just to back up just a tad bit, actually this season we actually lost a member of our 2016 state championship team to gun violence. Kid that was not in school because his school was not having a football season. Came back home, wrong place, wrong time, and it was actually killed in a robbery attempt. And then 2018, we had another young man that was part of our team that had graduated and was also killed in broad daylight around about 100 people. So we have suffered, definitely lost. It makes you makes you think as a coach, like whenever anything goes bad, like what could you have done? So then when you talk about tradition, you know, we go back, you know, years, and I tell these kids it's not about just us. You know, we take that walk from our school to the football field the same route that my father took, my uncles took, any alumni that played at that field, the same route, and that is the tradition of the North Side. And it brings chills to me because we are linked arm to arm, and we go. And kids know that that is the road that all the previous pollers have taken to success, and it's special. And every time we take that walk, history, it's historic, and it means so much to all of us. And we'll continue to do it because it is the tradition.
Yeah, I was so moved by seeing it on film. I was just like, man, I mean, the pride that must be in the neighborhood to see those kids being positive, representing so much for that community. I just think it's an amazing thing. I encourage everyone to try to find a video of it. It's really amazing. So we're going to move on to some Q&A. We got the first one coming in, and I'm gonna ask him to unmute himself. Mr. Fisher, can you go ahead and ask that first question, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Anthony. And thank you both coaches for being on and speaking to our membership. It's truly a delight to have you both here. My question for both of you, how can athletic administrators show genuine support to their coaches and student athletes during their respective activism efforts?
Oh, I could talk about that, Tom. I think, and you know, from me to you, I truly appreciate you in your role, your position. It has been a breath of fresh air to have somebody that is involved in things like you are, and to be under you. So it is truly a blessing, and this district is blessed to have a person like you as their head athletic director. I think the biggest thing is, like Coach London had said earlier, we got to support the coaches like we expect the kids or the coaches to support the kids. And it's something as small as when Coach London said JJ from Good Times, and he's like, we gotta get up to the times, because it happens to me all the time. Right now, we know that social activism, we know that what's going on in this world is important to our young ones. So as a coach, we cannot be stuck in our space and ignore that. Athletic directors have to be able to support kids or coaches the same way, because this is a new time. People don't like change, but right now this is what it is. And I think the continued support and just knowing that we have to adjust how things are and be supportive of the adjustment in the new times, I think that'll go a long way.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would add to Coach Adams is that what you see is you see wants and you see needs and you see necessities. Student athletes want a place of space. They want a sense of safety and community. They want to be inclusive. You providing or us providing safety tips to them. I know this might sound, I'm just giving it to the way I see it, because working at a university, they want to feel like there's some inclusiveness and some space and safety within the community that they go to school. People that look like them, whether it's a teacher or service provider, to be able to, to speak with, have empathy for. I'll back up real quick. Coach Adams, man, I don't know you, but my first year here, I lost a player to gun violence. And it's just like how eerie this whole thing is between you and I meeting for the first time, that how similar our stories and our paths are. And I'll never forget that was told to me, if I'd been here earlier, this might not have happened, because of the care and want and desire for players to feel like they belong. There's a sense of belonging, including faith and family. So we got to talk offline, because this is like, I know I'm trying to answer the question from Mr. Fisher, but it's like I'm finding more and more about how we are kindred in a way that probably, will keep us connected. But I would say some of the other things is when you're trying to provide opportunities for your student athletes, is to also encourage them to be informed about what it is that they want to participate in. What goals do they have in terms of making active and demonstrated change? The actions they may include. Knowing is again another small thing, but maybe not small in terms of the perspective of things, is knowing what the law enforcement rules of engagement are in around in your community. Knowing what the use of force laws are in your community. Knowing just different things like that, so they become informed and educated about the environment and where they live and what their rights are. Knowing that they do have freedom of speech, they have a freedom to assemble, they have a freedom for due process. And so the more we can equip them with knowing that what they do have, and not just because police officers have a lot of discretion and a lot of power, and the issue is how they're using it and how it's put out on different people or communities. So turning it around and becoming and educating our young people about the things that they are allowed to have, that they can, as citizens, be involved with, I think goes a long way as well.
Thank you, gentlemen. Coach Adams, the other piece that you and I had spoken about, and I'd love for you to share the story, is, when your kids found out that the district was ending the contract with Minneapolis Police and that you were going to have to leave your role as a resource officer, how did they respond, and how did you support them?
Well, some of the parents and the students got together. There was a rally, or there was a meeting or a rally going on in the parking lot of the school board, and it was to encourage and support the removal of SROs from Minneapolis. And the players got wind of that, and they went down there, and it was really, the people there thought that they were in support of the removal, and the kids got the mic, and they were like, no. They're like, you guys are once again making, and when I say you guys, I mean the school board, making a decision that impacts the inner city North Side school, that will impact them the most, without having input. And the kids basically spoke up for themselves, saying, you are removing our coach from our school building that we feel safe. Do we feel, the kids do they feel a certain way about police officers? Absolutely. But there is a handful of them that they do feel a certain way about, and they feel that they trust and they are protected by it. And that was the biggest thing with the kids. The kids were like, okay, well, now if something happens, we got to call 911. And 911 comes, and that person comes, it could be the same kind of officer that dealt with George Floyd. and people don't think about that. And I'm gonna say this in front of everybody. I literally, and I don't even know if you know this, Tony, I called the school board and I wrote a letter, and I literally got on my hands and knees and begged them. I begged them not to remove us from the schools. And the response they gave me it just gave me a sick pit in my stomach. It was, well, we have people that feel that y'all don't need and y'all are not effective. And it's out of my hands. And not one person could tell me anybody from our community that felt that way. It was from a different community. So our kids, I was afraid, and I, I'm be honest with you, I'm still kind of worried about the safety of my kids, because What happens when that school gets shot up again, for the second time? Now, I'm not there anymore, but this is what happens when the second time the school gets shot up. But I'm not there. I was there the first time. So, and that's the stuff that, it was not being thought about. And that's what worries me. But, we tough on the north side. So we gonna figure it out.
I know that's right. So, gentlemen, I want to be mindful of time and your time, and we got about 5 minutes left. I just want, any advice that you can give to these athletic administrators. Coach London, you mentioned about, the small number of African-American coaches in not only college and NFL. Well, Nomad was started to try to create a pathway for minority athletic directors because, we don't have a lot in terms of representation around the country. So what's impart some wisdom to us. Your story has already motivated us a great deal, but what little other nugget can you share with us before we go?
Wow. Well, I know the challenges that are always presented. Again, I'll just a quick story. When I played at Richmond, I was a 4-year starter. I was MVP my senior year, went on to coach different places. So the first time there was a head job that was open there. So I go back, and I'd been an assistant coach. And I said, here I am. I played here. I was the MVP. And what I got was, well, you never coached in the NFL, or you've never been a coordinator, defensive coordinator. And I'm like, but I'm the same person. I'm the same attitude, the same zeal. And so that was frustrating. So I left, went back to Virginia, went to the NFL, coached as a defensive line coach. Al Golden was the defensive coordinator of Virginia. He left and he went to Temple for 2 years as their head coach. Coach Grove called me and said, "Do you want to come back and be the defensive coordinator?" So in a span of about 3 years, same personnel, I went to the NFL, came back to UVA as a defensive coordinator, 2 years, and then Richmond's job came open again, and I kind of felt like, what, like now, back then you didn't want me, now I'm hot, you're all on me. That was Mike Jones right there. So Coach Adams, that's up to date right there, just so you know. So and it was like, okay, so that's how I became the head coach. So, but I would say, like I said before, because I know a lot of you guys do multiple things. You multitask, and you might line fields, and you also make sure the buses are being. So I know you do a whole bunch of things. I would just keep encouraging that somebody's watching. Somebody's always watching, right, wrong, or indifferent. Somebody's always watching to say what you can't do. But I'm a glass half filled, and instead of glass half empty. And what does a glass need? It needs pouring into. It needs pouring into to help fulfill its potential. Because you can look at a glass half empty and say, well, you don't have this, you don't have that. I just keep, from my perspective, my perception and reality, the gun didn't go off and you're the match. There is nothing else that I'm thinking that I can't do. And I just want to impart that to you guys that, with him, all things are possible. And it goes back to the faith element of that. So, keep being an advocate for yourself and the people that can help pour into your glass.
Coach, you had me at Mike Jones, dog. You had me at Mike Jones. I'm good. Coach Adams?
Man, Coach London, man, you something else, man. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna be honest with you. Go play Mike Jones in your locker right now and see if them kids won't eat you up.
I play music in practice all the time, all edited version too, though. Yes.
No, it's all good. I feel you, Coach, and you couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, it's people are watching, and I'll say, just from our head AD, the minute that he stepped foot in there, he was getting at me like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? I'm like, what? Like, so just having the open mind just to help you grow. And that's why I say, Tony, you're well appreciated. And whenever he asked me, could I be on this? And I looked at him like, Tone, come on. Man, if you don't got to ask me anything. you just tell me where I need to be at.
Man. Well, y'all, it's 11 o'clock. I hope you all have been enriched. What a gift that these two gentlemen have shared with us. I'm going to share my screen one last time just to show you what's coming up. Coming up for us on March 9th, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports and Nomad present PATH. It's a new resource that we're going to take advantage of for all of our coaches to use. And then March 11th, we're going to get into something that is really near and dear to my heart. I just had Ivy Watts here at my school. She did an amazing job, but mental health and athletics featuring Ivy Watts will be on March 11th. So make sure you look out for the signups for both those two events in March. We're very happy to be collaborating with the Global Community of Women, and we're very excited about touching on a very important topic for us as athletic directors and our own mental health, but also focusing on our student athletes' mental health. Because I want to remind you all, a lot of us, it's been 11 months of trauma for our kids. Like my kids out here in California, we're just now starting to play. So we've been 11 months of doing nothing. And that has been a form of trauma to them. It's not the trauma that a lot of us experience in the, but I'm not here to rank people's trauma. Trauma is going to be trauma. And how we deal and respond to it is what's got to be the most important thing. So I hope you guys will be able to join us for that. And any other times that you need us, that Nomad board is here for you. And I know that Coach London and Coach Adams will be happy to continue to impart their wisdom to us. And again, and I want to also remind everyone that Coach London is also on our advisory board. So he is making a difference in every way that he can. And this was just one part of it. So gentlemen, again, thank you. I know you got to get back to work and do your thing. Coach Adams, I'm looking forward to a Juicy Lucy with you and Tony Fisher one day. We're going to make that happen. Coach London, good luck next week in that Capital Cup. Do your thing, dog. Beat down your boys. I would love it if y'all came out to Mike Jones before the game. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. But anyway, Nomad family, we love you. Thank you for being here today, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Coach Adams, hey, send me that resume, man. You're on my short list, dude. You're on my short list. I'm telling you right now.
Hey, coach. I'm just trying to get it where I fit in.